Hi, everybody. Thank you for tuning in, and I'm happy to have you here. So, I'm recording on a Sunday evening. I had a really relaxing, rejuvenating day. It is the middle of October, and it's finally starting to feel like fall in Los Angeles, which I'm excited about. I hate to see the end of summer, but I am embracing the season, especially since it's spooky season. I hope you're all doing well. And I'm excited to share this episode with you. It's something that is really important to me right now. And a lot of people don't know much about hypnosis. And it's something that I just feel really called to share. So if you're interested, which I'm assuming you are because you're tuning in, I want to just preface this whole episode and the whole topic of hypnosis by just kind of erasing everything that you know or that you think you know and just come into it with an open mind. Within the episode, I might refer to certain topics like past life regressions and different forms of hypnosis, and it can get a little bit challenging with belief systems. And I ask that you just have an open mind, and I'm not here to change anyone's perspective on things, but I just want to share a little bit about what I've learned, and I practice this in a really respectful way towards any religions or no religions at all if you're atheist. So this is really meant for everybody, and I believe that everyone can get something out of hypnosis and a past life regression. Even if you don't believe in that, that's totally fine. I do believe, though, that the subconscious, which is what we work with in the past life regression, the subconscious is sharing information for our conscious mind through symbolism and imagery, and it's something that we can take into our present life, our present moment, to help improve our lifestyle. So I do believe that there's imagery and that there's symbolism within what appears to us under hypnosis. So I just want to preface this whole episode by saying that I'm not here to change any of your beliefs. It doesn't have to be past life. It can just be something that you see, that you witness within side of a session that can really just help transform and change some of your beliefs in the most incredible way. So I wanted to start off by just sharing that it is for everybody, regardless of your beliefs, and I'm not trying to change your mind on anything, but I do hope that you come into this with just an open mind to learn something a little bit more. And also, I would love to hear your thoughts on this too. So before I get into it, I just want to also say that I didn't know much about hypnosis either before I started. I really had no idea what it was besides what we all know, like the swinging pocket watch and just some form of like sleepiness and loss of control, which it really isn't any of that. I believe that you're fully in control, and it is a really beautiful experience. So throughout this episode, I want to break it down into several parts. I want to share a little bit about what it really is, what to expect in a session, and then also shed light on what my first session was like. And make sure you guys stay tuned to the very end because I have a special offering for those of you who are listening to this podcast episode. So like I shared, I didn't know much about hypnosis. I had actually first discovered this particular work and this particular method, which is QHHT, which I'm going to get into. It's a specific form of hypnosis, but I first discovered it by watching the streaming service Gaia. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. Maybe some yes, some no. But basically it's similar to Hulu, Netflix, any of the streaming services, but it's geared towards a lot of conscious media, so they have different theories on things, different modalities, so it could be meditation, hypnosis in this case, with different interviewers in different fields, and there's a lot of really interesting material on there. So if you haven't heard of it, I really suggest checking it out. I love watching a lot of the different specials that they have. Also paranormal, which you guys know I love. So I saw a few different episodes on there, different interviews that they had, and one of the QHHT facilitators. Her name's Sarah Bressman Cosme, and she had a few different interviews, and I was so blown away by what she shared that she found within her work. So she had several clients that she worked with multiple times, and she was able to put them under hypnosis and was able to pull certain experiences that they had in their past lives out of them. And they had no prior experience, no real understanding of what they were sharing. The information that came through was almost channeled in a way. I just found it totally captivating. I was so into it, and I just kept watching all of the interviews that she shared. I was fortunate enough to meet her twice at the Conscious Life Expo in Los Angeles, which happens once a year around February, and they have a lot of different people who are into hypnosis and different forms of therapy and healing, and it's a really great weekend, almost retreat. You don't stay there, but they have so many different speakers and different options and offerings that it's really great for getting to meet different people in the field. So I had the pleasure of meeting her twice. It was 2 years in a row, and ever since I've really been following her work very closely, the QHHT modality, and she's published a few different books, and I really found a lot of inspiration early on in the last few years from Sarah. So in learning what she does and kind of how she works with her clients, I really felt drawn to do this myself. So I looked into it and found out that it is the QHHT method, which was developed by a woman named Dolores Cannon. So Dolores is from Arkansas, and she created this foundation. Unfortunately, she passed away, but she left a legacy, and she made such a huge impact in the hypnosis world, and I think she published like 15 different books on hypnosis. She would also work with clients time and time again and really pull information from their sessions and kind of collect it into different books on different topics. So I haven't really scratched the surface much with her books yet, but that's next on my list. And I've never had a formal past life regression up until recently. But the closest thing that I had was during one of my intuitive healing sessions, probably 4 or 5 years ago. And we were doing different activities. It was probably a group of like 15 or 20 people. And we were put into pairs. And this was kind of like psychic work in a way. And I was paired with this one woman, and we had to read each other's energy. She had more experience with a lot of this work prior, and she has some psychic abilities. So we were doing this activity, and she was able to recall one of my past lives. It was really interesting to me because as she was sharing this story of what she read and what she picked up on, I could see her being noticeably affected by what she was sharing, very emotional. She started tearing up and she started crying, and that's how deep she was feeling this information and what she was sharing. So the story started that I was a man probably in like the 14, 15, 1600s, I would assume, somewhere in that wide range. But I was on a giant ship. It felt more like Scandinavia or maybe even the UK. And I was being separated from my wife and my son. And I had so much pain when we were being separated because we had just been married. We were on a beach a few days prior, and it was such a beautiful experience. It was such a deep love. And she was sharing this scene of us being separated onto 2 different ships. And like I said, she was starting to cry, and she just felt this deep sadness that she was sharing. And she had said that I was so upset at myself for the rest of that life that I carried that pain with me, and that we had such a strong bond and such a strong love that I needed to learn to forgive myself because it wasn't my fault. And just seeing the pain in her eyes that she shared with me was so moving and so interesting that this really opened my eyes to the possibility of this being true. And like I said, whether you believe in this or not, it's totally fine. Maybe this wasn't the exact situation that could have happened in a past life, but it's interesting to note, and it's also, most importantly, interesting to note what lessons am I being shown? What am I being challenged to look at here? Because I believe that there's something, no matter what comes up, that you can take away that can really improve your life today. So that was my only experience. It was only like a few minutes that she shared from that past life, and we hadn't met or had any interaction since, but it's something that stuck with me and I just kept in the back of my mind. So like I said, the last few years, the only other brush with hypnosis was the few interviews from Sarah that I would watch on Gaia, and just a few other things, programs here and there on hypnosis. But I'd say at the end of last year, I started feeling the urge to practice this myself. So I went online and I researched a little bit more the program, the QHHT Dolores Cannon specific hypnosis. So I signed up and I completed the level 1 coursework. So I spent a few months studying it online. I really enjoyed the videos and just everything that the program had. And now as an intern, I am working on practicing with so many different people and having so many sessions that I can really hone in and work on my questions and just creating this overall awesome experience for my clients and people who are interested in exploring this world. So the first session that I had with someone in my course was about a week ago. And this session was him as the facilitator and myself as the client, which was really interesting because prior to this, I've only done 4 sessions as the hypnotist and none as the client. But this was my first experience as the client. So his name's Raphael, and we connected and we wanted to practice. So I met up with him. I went to his spot in Topanga Canyon. He lives in this really cool area right on top of the mountains. It's the most beautiful view that I've ever seen in that area. Like, it just feels like you're in the middle of nowhere and it's very remote. In such a perfect setting for something like this. So it has an outdoor area to it. There's an inside area. So within a typical session, the first part is the interview. So you basically get to know the person and it's pretty in-depth. You share a lot about yourself and it helps to really understand them, understand what they're going through. It really helps to paint a full picture of what they've been through, where they're at in their life currently, and it really helps to strengthen the relationship that you have with the client. It helps to pull their walls down, they become more comfortable, they trust in you, and anything that is said within that session, just like a therapy session, is 100% confidential. So when I went to Raphael, one of the other things that you do before a session, some prep work, is to come up with some questions to ask. And these questions can be anything. As the client, you have a lot of questions that you would like to know the answer to. So within this session, you are asking your higher self or your subconscious, there's different names that you can call this, some information so you can have a better idea where to move forward within your life. So I collected about 20 questions going into this session, and it can be related to anything, to why you are the way you are, some ambitions, your dreams, physical ailments, relationships, the future, the past, or even world questions that don't even pertain to you as to why things are the way they are. There's literally no limit on what you can ask, which is really interesting. So that's something that I encourage with my clients to come up with at least a few days before so that they can sit with it and come up with some questions that will really help them. So going into the session, like I said, I prepared these questions. We sat outside on his patio overlooking Topanga Canyon. It was very beautiful, the perfect, tranquil, relaxing session, and we chatted for about 2 hours. And this is the interview portion. So as we chatted, he got to know me, some of my past, my history, where I went to school, all of this stuff. And then once we kind of covered all of that, then we went inside to begin the actual session itself. So with this session, I became super comfortable. That's really important too. So you are essentially the most relaxed you've ever been. So you make sure that you're comfortable with the right pillows under your head and under your feet and the perfect body temperature. Make sure that you use the restroom before, because you literally are relaxing every single muscle. So within this, I had already deeply trusted Raphael, and we began the session. So I do have to point out his voice was perfect for really creating this hypnotic effect and really putting me into this state. The first part of the hypnosis session, when he's putting me under, he uses his voice in a very tranquil and a very relaxing way, almost like a lullaby, the way that he draws out his words to kind of put you in the right space. So that could take anywhere between 15 to 20 minutes until I reach more of a hypnotic state. You're moving through three different brainwave states throughout this process. There are 4 total that we move through each and every day. So the first one is the beta, which is while we're awake and we're alert. And then alpha below that is kind of when we're on autopilot, whether it's us driving a car and we're multitasking, we're there and we're paying attention, but we may not be fully present. Alpha is the lightest level of trance. Most hypnotists will take their clients to the alpha state, but within the QHHT, you're taken to one state lower, which is theta, and this is the deepest level of trance. And every day you enter theta at least twice a day, and theta is that moment between when you're waking up and when you're going to sleep. So it's really shifting from delta to alpha. In that in-between state to where you're kind of alert, a small amount of being aware, and this is where we get our results with QHHT. And a lot of it has to deal with the subconscious self, the higher self. And then the lowest state is delta, which is when you're fully asleep and you're unaware. So just to run through it real quick, beta is wide awake. Alpha is not fully present, but kind of on autopilot. That's 2. 3 is theta, which is the deepest level of trance, and 4 is delta, which is you're fully asleep. So within the QHHT, we work within the theta state. So it takes about 15 minutes once you start the hypnosis to reach the theta state. And you can tell because the client's body kind of drops in. The way that they fully relax, the breathing changes, there are certain points that you can look for. A big part of this is using visualization techniques. Now this is something, like I mentioned before, that I wasn't sure I'd be able to do. I was always the practitioner but never the client, so I was nervous going into this. Although I felt relaxed, I was nervous that what if I didn't see anything? What if I didn't go anywhere into a past life, or I just fell asleep? So with that, I just trusted the process, and I was pleasantly surprised that that wasn't the case. As I began, I just trusted it. And for those of you guys listening, that's the most important part, is just to trust it. If you don't see anything, whatever comes to you, even if you believe it's imaginary or you're making it up, just trust it. Just go with it. You will see or experience something, 100%. It's a different state when you feel like you're in the theta and your body fully releases and relaxes. And for me, it was really instant what I saw. Now, I went into it and it really surprised me because I immediately knew my setting. And that's one of the most important parts when you start. The practitioner will ask you to describe where you are, what you're wearing, to try to put the pieces together and really paint this picture of a past life. So for me, Raphael knew the perfect questions to ask. So I immediately felt like I was in the body of a man who was probably around 40, late 40s to 50s. And I was in a factory, and it was cold and it was loud. And my body, my physical body in this life just kind of was flooded with this emotion that wasn't mine. It was weird just seeing it and feeling it as the observer, because I was literally, it felt like I was transported to this place. And he continued to ask questions, and I'm going to play a clip here shortly, and you could hear just in my voice the authenticity and how parts of it just did not even feel like it was me at all. Like I was literally this person, this man. And I was able to pinpoint the setting. Like I said, I was in a factory. I was wearing a work uniform. It was loud. It was super bright. The lights were excruciatingly bright. And I just really wasn't happy with where I was in life. And this life was a lot of hard work, not a lot of fun. Everything just kind of was flooded to me. And he continued to ask questions. And as the practitioner, they will take you to different scenes in this life. So they can take you to different days where important things are happening. And you're always shown what is most appropriate, what you can walk away with, the information and things that can help you in this life. So I was in this factory, like I said. I kind of had this bird's eye view of my life. I had taken care of my mom at the time, who was older, and she was sick. And I was just miserable. I was alone. I felt like I couldn't express myself. I only knew what work was. I didn't take care of myself. I was just a really, really unhappy person. And it felt like it was in Chicago or outside of Chicago in maybe the 40s or 50s, maybe even 60s, just somewhere within that period too. So as he continued to ask questions and take me throughout these different days, the picture started painting itself, and I shared it. And everything is recorded. It's confidential, but it's recorded for the client to go back and listen to it, because as you're sharing this, you do consciously remember some of it, but then some of it you forget. And because there are these Easter eggs and these golden nuggets of information that you can remember and you can implement into your life, your current life, to help you, to guide you with certain questions that you might have. So the whole session is recorded, and you can listen to it later, which helps to fill in the gaps. I'm going to play a couple minutes here of a few highlights that I've meshed together that just really describe what I felt, and you'll hear Raphael asking me questions and just describing the scene and the setting and where my mind was at that time, and just focus on listening to my voice. It really doesn't even sound like my voice at all. I felt like I was actually this guy in a weird way. I felt like he was coming through me, and just listen to that, and I'll explain it afterwards. I'm standing on cold, hard concrete.
And can you see your feet or anything below you?
I'm wearing black work shoes. The soles are thin. I'm wearing wide leg pants, work pants. They're stiff.
And what else do you see around you?
I'm alone, and I just see machinery Big machines.
Are you holding anything in your hands?
No, there's something wrong with my hands.
Are there other people operating the machinery?
Not with me. They trust me because they know I'll do a good job. I'll try my best.
What's the purpose of the work that you're doing?
It helps to build foundation for bigger buildings. It's just structural things, big parts, but it's so bright and loud. The lights are just shining down all day. I feel like my life, I've given up on myself.
How old do you feel now?
I'm like 49, 50. I'm in this park in Chicago, but I feel like my life is over, really. It was a beautiful moment just seeing the grass and the sunshine and sky, but I just don't think it's not for me anymore.
Yeah. What happens next?
I'm just walking and I'm sad because I quit my job. I was frustrated. And I don't know what to do.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels like there's nothing left for you without work and your mother to take care of.
I don't know myself. This is all I know. This is who I am. It's everything to me.
Yeah.
My hands are in so much pain that I'm so frustrated and sad. You can just hear the pain within my voice, especially towards the end when I said that I was just sad. Another thing that I wanted to mention is I had this visceral feeling as soon as I went into that life that there was a problem with my hands. When I was in the factory, I looked down and I saw my hands and there was something wrong. There was some accident that I wasn't able to use my hands throughout most of that life. So I felt disabled, and I think that added to why I was so miserable and had such a hard time. I also wasn't able to share my feelings at all. I didn't have any form of self-expression or joy within that life. I mentioned that my health wasn't the greatest. I ate a lot of TV dinners. I didn't socialize with anyone. I was a hermit besides my work. And I was even able to pinpoint that I started work at 6 in the morning and the color of my car. And it was interesting because this storyline just came through me when Raphael was asking these questions. It all just kind of came together. And it was very interesting and quite unbelievable. You're really in what feels like a totally different space when you're in this theta brain state, or within this work it's called the somnambulistic state. It's the closest state to actually being asleep, but you're still conscious, you're still awake. So transitioning out of that life, the last part is the practitioner asks the client to go to the last day of their life. It's important to see the death scene or to have some information on how that person died in that lifetime. And why is this important? It's important because a lot of times the way that people will die in their past lives can affect their current life, whether it was something tragic, whether it was a fire or a plane crash or something, and that can be translated into this life as a phobia or a fear or even a birthmark or a certain effect on your current body. So it's always interesting to note what happened to you in that life could potentially affect or have some sort of effect really on you in this life. In that life, I didn't see how I died. I did see myself within the casket and kind of the cast of characters of who was there. It was like my brother who I wasn't close with, and also like an older family friend that wasn't necessarily my mom or my dad, but I had died like late 50s, mid 50s in that lifetime. And like I said, it wasn't a suicide or anything, but it was early. I was younger. And from there, you transition into the second and final part of the hypnosis session, and that's where you contact the subconscious. So you leave that life behind, you're separated from who you were then, and the practitioner will ask your subconscious or your higher self certain questions, and this is where you get all of your information that you can use within your current life. This is where your list of questions that you come with are asked. This is where a body scan can be done, and this is something that he did for me. So basically, as a body scan, you're moving through your physical body and you are looking to see if you're holding on to any energy. It can be your physical body parts. You can start, with your left foot, for example, and work your way up and just kind of go through the foot and the ankles and just notice and see if there's any tension there. You can also do it energetically. So you can start with the crown chakra, for example, and work your way down energetically, or you can do both, which is interesting. And a theme that continued to come up time and time again for me is my throat chakra, which rules self-expression. And this is something that within that life I wasn't able to do. And I'm consciously aware that this is something that I've been pushed towards and guided time and time again in this life. My north node, for anyone who is familiar with astrology and the zodiac, my north node is in Sagittarius, which has always resonated with me. And if you don't know your north node, this is something completely different, and I'm off topic for a second, but your north node is really interesting because it pinpoints your higher purpose in this lifetime and what your soul is trying to achieve. So you can even type this in on Google and look it up, but basically whatever sign your north node is in represents what kind of attributes you're trying to take on in this life and what you're working towards. And for me, it is Sagittarius. And I've always resonated with this. And Sagittarius is kind of like the wild one in terms of being ambitious and like the free thinker and higher knowledge and really just the go-getter in that way. And I've always resonated with that, even though I'm not a Sag, or my moon or my rising isn't Sag, but my north node is. And on that note, your south node is actually the opposite sign of your north node. So it's what your soul is trying to leave behind in this life. And for me, that's Gemini. And one of the negative attributes of Gemini is being two-faced or gossiping and getting in over your head on maybe social circles and things like that. So that is something that my soul is trying to leave behind within this life, or it can be a lesson. So that's something that I highly encourage you checking out too, is just looking up your north and south nodes, because I feel like that really resonates. So getting back to my original train of thought before I went on that tangent is the body scan and really looking at yourself and your energetic body and seeing where you're holding energy, where you may have some blocks or some shortcomings in that life, and how you can positively shift it within this life. So for me, like I said, it was a lot with the throat chakra, with self-expression, and I'm currently combating that by doing this podcast and sharing information and really just trying to not only communicate and share self-expression in different ways, but to help people and to share information and things that I'm learning, as that's what I've discovered throughout this process. So like I said, I came with different questions to the session, and Raphael had asked them back to me through the contacting the subconscious, and that was really interesting too. I'm not going to go through all of them, but there were different ones that I had asked, with like soul purpose, and for this lifetime certain things that I need to let go of, and different things that I need to focus on, and maybe different roadblocks and things that are in my way that are stopping me from living my best life. The main themes that continue to come across time and time again, and the overall lessons from that life, is to really just enjoy life. And this is not the message that I was expecting to get. I think going into talking about past lives, a lot of people like to think that they were celebrities or lived in these cool foreign places, and that can be true to some extent. But like I said before, whatever comes through in your session is important and significant, and you're always shown what's most appropriate to see at this time. So the lesson within that life was to just enjoy life. I didn't in that lifetime. I just worked, and I didn't know how to share feelings, and I was blocked creatively. So within that life, I was miserable, and I'm doing the opposite within this life, and I'm trying my best to be present in every moment and to really find different ways to express myself. Another thing that came up is I had a lot of self-doubt, and I didn't trust. And within this life, as all of us do with certain things, self-doubt can come up, and I'm really working with that now to just trust my intuition, and if something feels right, just go with it. I want to be able to share and to communicate and to create. And hypnosis sessions are really powerful because it can validate what you already know, and it paints this full picture, and it's something that you can work with going forward into your future. When you reach the end of your session and you finish your questions, you're brought out of this somnambulistic state back into the beta state, and you're brought out pretty slowly. It's a countdown of coming back and being grounded into your body and really disconnecting from what you were experiencing. And Raphael did a great job, but I did notice that for myself, it was hard to get grounded afterwards. It took a few hours, actually. And there's a period after to where you talk with the practitioner, the client, the practitioner, speak, and you share what you came up with, and it's really just getting grounded. And I would suggest like eating some salty food and really just maybe taking a walk, especially if you're driving, before you get into the car. Because for a few hours after, I was kind of out of it. I was just like such a klutz. I was like tripping, and just it was really surprising. I wasn't expecting it to be like that coming out of it. So that is something that I would recommend. And make sure you drink a lot of water also. But I had such a great experience, and thank you, Raphael, for that. I'm looking forward to doing a session with him where we switch, and he's the client and I'm the practitioner, and I'm really curious to see what will come up. But since I shared what I had experienced as the client, if any of you guys who are listening are interested and you live in the greater Los Angeles area, I would love to work with you. As I mentioned, I am currently at the intern level within the QHHT world, and I need so many sessions in order to move on to level 1. So although I did all of the training for my first part, I need so many sessions. So I have 10 more sessions to do until I move on to the next level. So if you're interested in a session with me, I'd love to work with you. Please just send me a DM. And I know I covered a lot within this episode, but I'm super flexible on time. It will take me actually a long time to get through all of these 10 sessions, as I do work a full-time job and I have other things going on. But if you are interested, you can book a session directly through my website. My website, it's hellotimroddy.com, and from there you can go to services, and it's under QHHT hypnosis, and then the discount code for 100% discount, it's hypnosis 100. all capital. I don't know if that changes things, but it's HYPNOSIS100. And that will be for a complete free session with me. I only have 10 spots available, so do it as soon as you can. If you're listening to this, and whoever listened through all of this, I wanted to share it with you guys first. So thank you, but I'm really looking forward to it. And if for some reason you have any issues with the website, just send me a DM. But unfortunately, you can't do this virtual. It is something that has to be done in person. So unless you're visiting LA, I'll only be working with the people in Southern California for the foreseeable future, because I'm not planning on going anywhere for a while. So I'll be here, and once you book it, I'll get an alert, and then we can figure out the timing. Like I said, it might be a little bit of a wait list, but I promise if you're one of the first 10, I will get to you, but it might take a little while. So that gives you more time to come up with questions. So thank you so much for listening. I ask that if this episode resonated with you, if you could please leave me a review on Apple Podcasts, because that really helps, or Spotify. And I will be in touch with you guys soon. So thank you, and I look forward to sharing more of this journey with you. Bye.